Hi, it's Erin and Simon from Assets and Arbitrage. And today we're going to do a shift in perspective. We're going to get back to a little bit of Bitcoin and especially the dollar. Since we've opened up the algo, we just want to shift some perspectives a little bit to give more context to what's going on with the dollar and Bitcoin, or at least a way that it can be perceived in a more optimistic manner. So one of the things that Simon talks to me about all the time is because Americans are in America and they're using the dollar, it's really hard for them to see the fluctuations.
Right.
It's hard for them to understand their purchasing power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there really isn't any purchasing power in the U.S. where dollars are abundant.
Mm.
But the runaway inflation also makes it more difficult with purchasing power and the ability to increase your purchasing power in the U.S.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we like to talk about is just traveling abroad, opening up opportunities for yourself and your family. You will see that the dollar is, as they say, there is inflation in the United States, but if you go to these other countries, you get so much more purchasing power, and because it is the world reserve currency, and that is the arbitrage that we speak about. And it's not in every country, but there's certain regions of the world where if you have dollars and you make your money from US dollars, that you'll have that strong arbitrage to have the strength against a country's weaker currency. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. But you have to take the opportunity while you still can, because if the dollar collapses, like many people predict it will, that opportunity and that arbitrage will be gone. So now it's like they say, strike when the iron is hot. Now is the time where you can take that dollar, whether you want to buy real estate, start a business, invest in digital assets, physical assets. This is the time. The time is now, and she's gonna read an article that just came up today that's very interesting.
Okay. So we're always taking a look at, what's going on in the economy, especially the American economy, because that is where we generate income and how we invest in our assets. So on CNN Business, and the link will be in the description, the U.S. dollar is rising at a blistering clip, reaching the strongest level against other major currencies in almost 2 decades. For the first time in 2 decades, the dollar has met parity with the euro. So that's big news because it's showing you that the European Union is struggling and having a lot of issues. They're blaming it on the war in the Ukraine. And this information is actually helpful for American tourists who are traveling abroad this summer. Yeah. However, on Wall Street, it is a growing cause for concern. More so, the euro, which was always the benchmark that they used to pitch the dollar against, has dropped 12% this year. And this is important to kind of understand so you can see where the dollar is in the economic market versus the euro, which they typically benchmark it with. Like I said, it hit parity with the U.S. dollar for the first time in 20 years on Tuesday. And again, the fears about the region's economy, their real estate is absolutely insane with the inflation. There's a lot more homelessness and issues with cost of living in Europe, especially in England, London, than there is in the United States. It says that the dollar's ascent has begun in anticipation of interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve, which makes the United States a more attractive place to park cash. We are not telling you to park your investments in cash. We're telling you what the investors are doing, but this is a time for us to actually try to get our hands on the precious metals, find the things that we need to invest in while the dollar is at its strongest. However, at the end of the day, the article ends in the most important manner. It says, and I quote, What it all means. A stronger dollar gives Americans more spending power when they are outside of the country. And it's not necessarily a good thing for stocks since it eats into the value of corporate America's international sales and profits. They are literally telling you, hey, if you have the opportunity to travel abroad, this is the best time to do it. And again, we're never telling people to, we can cut that off.
Okay.
We're never telling people to relocate like we did, to just sell everything and move to a new country. Start visiting. Take your business intention trips.
Right.
Start trying to figure out what you want your quality of life to look like and how you want to build that.
Right.
Did you want to talk to them about precious metals?
No, I was just going to say that what you just read was very important because was it CNBC?
That was CNN.
CNN.
Business.
Okay, CNN. So they're saying this is the best time right now for you to take the strength that you have in your US dollars and use it outside the country. It doesn't mean you have to move tomorrow, but you can start looking into stuff, like I said, real estate, start looking into businesses. You could even start, looking into the things we had talked about on a few shows ago, where they are giving incentives for people to stay in the country and visas for a year and or more. And you can use the strength of your dollar in that way. That is a huge arbitrage. The dollar is very strong. We're in Mexico, so we're seeing the dollar strengthen against the peso day after day. Every day we see. So if we go to the store, things are just a little bit cheaper day after day, right? The dollar was about 1 to 19. So now we're pushing close to 1 to 21. So just going down and getting whatever, your fruits, your vegetables, your juice, even getting gas, the dollar is stronger. So what happens is we actually pay less for things as the dollar strengthens. So this is an opportunity right now for people to use the strength of the dollar, and whether it's investments or it could just be lifestyle. And that's just what we're talking about. We're not saying live. You don't have to leave. You might just do it for a few months, right?
Or a month, or
right.
a few weeks. But what we really want to do is, when we talk about opening up the algo, this is kind of a continuation of that conversation.
Yep.
Because there is a lot of sentiment that trash is cash. And what we're showing you is that
cash is trash.
I said it wrong.
Yeah.
Trash is cash. Cash is trash. I said it backwards. What we're trying to show you is that everything has a utility. So while it is weak in dealing with the stock market, while it's weak in dealing with the traditional economy, it does have a strength. It's just outside of your economy. And outside of your economy is where you can experience what purchasing power actually looks like. Because it's really been a long time since people have been able to experience true purchasing power with the US dollar. It's been declining for a long time coming.
Yeah, if you look at the dollar chart, it does decline. But if you have the dollar in the United States, that's a different thing than having it, because then you would have to cross-reference your chart. So if you lived in Mexico, you cross-reference the U.S. dollar chart against the Mexican peso chart to see the strength and or weakening of either currency. And when it's the United States and everything is used in denominated in U.S. dollars, then the chart is just going down, right? You can go to other places. We can name a whole bunch of countries, right, where the dollar is strengthening against the other currencies. And
against other hard currencies.
When you say hard, yeah, like the yen or the...
Because the Mexican peso is a softer currency, just in case somebody in the comments, somebody is going to bring it up.
Okay.
Oh, well, of course it's harder than soft currencies, but it's also strengthening against other hard currencies.
Yeah, of course, because like you just read the article, it's strengthening. It's at parity with the euro. So it is strengthening. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes where they say they're propping up the dollar, the interest rate hike and stuff like that. But no matter, you still have an opportunity while they are propping it up to use it for your benefit. And, like we say, I have some good friends. They're getting ready to retire. They're looking to buy some property in Belize,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the dollar is so strong. You go down to Belize, you get so much more bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
And you get what I would call more, what would you say?
More value.
Well, more value, but the property it's property is beachline property,
Oh,
right?
you're talking about prime real
Yeah,
estate.
it's
You're getting
prime real
prime real
estate.
estate
It's prime real
for
estate.
economic
Yeah. So I mean, there's things, and I would like to get them brothers on here to talk about their
experience.
experience in buying property in Belize and what they're seeing and the arbitrage that they're seeing. It's prime real estate, beach line, the sand, great weather. So these are all the things that people can, look around and do right now if you have, and see, like she said, cash has a utility. You keep what they call cash on the sidelines. Just in case something comes up, you're like, okay, I want to do that. I'm gonna take my cash and do that. Right. So it's all strategic, like we say, chess moves. So you have your chess pieces where you have them, and then you are ready to move when you see an opportunity, and that is the beauty of it, right? And this is just something we wanted to bring to you, kind of like she said, continuing the show about opening up the algorithm
And seeing things in a different way
hmm
that you're not used to seeing them, or that it's not being mirrored to you in that particular way. Now, that was CNN Business.
hmm
So for them to write an article that says, hey,
hmm
while the dollar may be struggling here, you guys are going to have the best opportunity outside of America. That's big, because they really do want to keep their dollars within their borders.
Yes.
So I thought that was like, that's odd.
hmm
In addition to that,
hmm
I wanted to bring up the idea, because we're talking about the ratios.
Yeah.
So again, sometimes you don't see the value in something until you benchmark it against something else.
Yes.
Right? Like if you live in a dilapidated home, you don't really, you get used to it.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
I'm gonna tell a funny Jamie Foxx story in a minute. You get used to it, and then it's only then when you walk into a home like Kim Kardashian's or a big, beautiful home in the Hamptons that you
hmm
realize how bad that home looks, or you
Okay.
realize how great this home looks.
Okay.
Sometimes you need the benchmark because we normalize things
hmm
until we see something different. So we travel a lot, so we're used to dealing with multiple currencies, and we're able to see the strengths and the advantages of the dollar, whereas the propaganda in the US is that cash is trash, the dollar is garbage, and runaway inflation is making stuff expensive.
hmm
So people don't get to experience. It's one thing for us to sit here and tell you you can get a 5,000-6,000 square foot bedroom house for the price you can get an efficiency in Manhattan.
Yep.
Right? It's easy for us to tell you. That's another thing for you to experience it for yourself.
Yeah, it has to be, like she said, it has to be something you experience yourself. We talked about this, I believe, on the last show about, just having maybe to go in some places where it might not be ideal, but you get a better arbitrage. Right now, you brought up a quote or, a talking point by somebody. His name is Andrew Henderson. He's called the Nomad
Yeah.
Capitalist. So check him out, man. He's got good game on different tax havens and places to move. But what did you say about him?
So
What did he say about people
he
in general?
had it was a meme, and I'm paraphrasing Andrew
hmm
Henderson, so don't kill me. But he basically said that it's ultimately propaganda and nationalization, where your country teaches you to stay here and fight and put up with whatever they're doing.
hmm
It is inherent of man. Man has always been nomadic.
hmm
If the cradle of civilization, this is me talking now, if the cradle of civilization was Mesopotamia, how did people get to all these other different continents if we were not a nomadic people? People from the dawn of time have always traveled abroad to find arbitrage for either themselves and their family. I think
Yeah.
Anderson stated to find opportunities for their tribes, because he
Right.
was talking about ancient civilizations. But
hmm
that was essentially their family, an extended family. So what I'm saying is, let's shift our perspective. Don't buy into the hype, right?
Right.
There's a lot of buying into the hype. There's a lot of pet rallies and rah-rah squads. We're going to stay here and fight. Unless you were Sean King and an Uber activist fighting for, black activism or whatever your grassroots or activism agenda is, a lot of people aren't fighting for anything. They're just there.
Right, and we talked about this. It's a strategic chess move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can leave your country, you can still have your citizenship, you can benefit off of your citizenship in another place, and you can or come back whenever you're ready,
Right.
if it suits you.
Right.
And we're just saying use the arbitrage and the opportunities that you have, because we did the passport index a while back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some people are born in places that their passport doesn't allow them to move around.
Yeah.
And if you were fortunate enough to be born in the United States, no matter how much you may not like it there and maybe hate it, but you do have an arbitrage because you have that passport, and you can move around and get things done in other countries. And also, you have tied to that, you have access to the US dollar.
Mm-hmm.
If you're being paid in dollars, if your investment, however you're getting your money, is coming through US dollars, which is the world reserve currency, and then you move somewhere else or you're doing some business somewhere else, you have an advantage. And take advantage of that now, because you don't know how long it'll be there.
Yes. There have been times when countries have closed their citizens couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Because they needed to restrict the monetary flow of money, influx in and out, and so on and so forth. One of the major signals of collapse, and I want you guys to look at it, open up your algorithms. People are missing the signals of collapse in society because the algorithms on their phones, where they get their news, has them locked. The airlines in the United States is struggling. They're struggling with the crew, the pilots. Flights are getting delayed. Flights are getting canceled. People are getting on the plane. It's been delayed for 6 hours. And then when they get on the plane, the crew timed out. There is no additional crew. And people are getting, and this is just domestic travel from one place to another in the U.S. This isn't even international travel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're seeing the struggle of domestic travel, look it up, look at it. Like, this is serious. You can't get out of the country. If you can't even get around your country, you're not going to be able to get out of your country. And you don't want to get to the point where the United States gets itself in a situation where you have to flee. You don't even have a passport. There's nowhere for you to flee. The State Department's not going to issue it. Yeah. I think the State Department's been catching up on passports.
Yeah, they're still behind, though. I mean, it still takes a while to get a passport if you do not have one. It's still going to take, they're saying up to 3 months.
I've heard that they've been cutting that time down.
I hope so.
It's not the 6 weeks we're used to, but I think it's less now.
And I'm not sure. We used to be able to go and get passports on the same day. Used to be able, if you had tickets and said that you're going to be traveling in the next 2 weeks, you can go to the State Department, get a passport that same day. I don't know if they're still doing that. I do not know.
I don't know if they have the
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they're still able to do that. But, this is just a time where you could look at some of the strength. If you have some dollars, you can use them in other places. As far as investments, you can take them other places and get leverage on your dollar against the weaker currency. Now, I wanted to bring up something because, she was talking about the price of Bitcoin. So let's talk about the price of Bitcoin. So one of the things we always say is, remember, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, right? It's the unit. It doesn't matter what the price is. So there was a time, right? There was a time when one Bitcoin was the same price as $1. Now, when was that? That was in April of 2011. So it's been, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. But at that point, one Bitcoin was $1. $1 was $1. $1 was $1.
$1 was $1.
What I'm saying is, if you had $1,000, you could have put it in the bank, or you could have bought 1,000 Bitcoin. Yes. So we both know, we all know what would have been a better play.
Right.
So it had, as she said earlier, like the euro, it had parity. Bitcoin had parity with the dollar in April of 2011. Each were $1.
Yes.
$1 was a dollar. One Bitcoin was worth a dollar.
Yes.
12, no, I'm sorry, my math is bad. 11 years later, so one Bitcoin, even though people are not happy with the price, you got like 19,000. What's the price?
It was
It was 287 right here.
$19,855 this
But
morning.
so what is that? These are orders of magnitude. We talked about this on a couple shows ago. Look how it compounded over the years, over 11 years. Right. So, and that's important because the dollar is always declining. I have a great book. I should probably put it in the description, and it talks about currencies over the last maybe 500-600 years. And great gentleman, and he really breaks it down. He says every currency always goes back to its initial inherent value, which is zero or nothing. Right? The longest standing currency is the sterling pound. And the sterling pound has lost over 99% of its value since its inception. When the sterling pound came into inception, it was one sterling pound was supposed to be worth 12 troy ounces of silver.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you think one sterling pound, 12 sterling ounces of silver would probably be worth, I think silver is hovering around 20 without the premium. So it would be what? It's
Over
20.
$200.
Yeah. Well, 20 ounces. Yeah, yep, that's indeed. So is one sterling pound worth $200?
No.
Not at all. So you see, and that's the strongest. And when I say the USD is the reserve currency, but the sterling pound is the oldest currency that still has value. And you can go back and read about other currencies. They collapse, they go to zero, and they're worthless. You see, in Venezuela, the Venezuelan bolivar, it was in the street. It's just in the street like paper, like trash, like garbage. What once was their currency that you went to buy stuff for, nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. And so you have to be careful because the pattern persists. So you have to understand that most of these currencies will end up going to zero and collapse. And that's what we're just trying to say. While you have a very, very strong currency and you have access to it, use it on your behalf so that you can build up for your family and, like she said, the tribe. I like that, your tribe, because eventually it will collapse. It will just collapse. We talked about, I think in the show, we were talking about the Russian ruble, how it went down so bad, in the wake of the war. So, this is the things you have to, just be concerned with. But if you have that advantage, use it in your favor, right?
So I do want to say too, we said Bitcoin's over 19,000. It's almost $20,000.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
I would like somebody to name me a currency that is bigger than Bitcoin against the dollar. There is none. So even though Bitcoin isn't at the $500,000 mark, like people were forecasting,
hey, man.
I think they were forecasting 220 in December, but I kid. He hates when I make up numbers. Even though it's not there, it's still extremely strong against the dollar, and it is the strongest, in a sense, money benchmarked against any other currency that we have available in the world. So go ahead, baby.
Oh, go ahead. I mean,
I was just going to say, so when we shift our perspective, we want to put those things in the context. The other thing I want to say is because he was basically talking to you. Go ahead, baby.
Oh, because she's talking about shifting perspective. Remember, when you talk about Bitcoin, it's denotated in dollars, right? So when you want to shift the perspective, understand that most people see Bitcoin going up, right? But understand what's happening is the dollar's losing value against Bitcoin. So you have to see it that way as well, because you want the price to go up, but if the dollar is losing value, you have to have you're like, okay, so Bitcoin prices, one time it was $1 to $1, now it's 19,000 to $1. That is the dollar losing value and
Power.
power. And so you have to also see it that way. And even when you deal with precious metals, like I said, we talked about before, 1 ounce of gold should buy a man a fine suit, whether that's $2,000, $200, 30 years ago, whatever it'll be in 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
It's holding its purchasing power. And that's what people want. They want something. Most people, I mean, I know a lot of people want to make exponential gains,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people, when you have a lot of money and you're trying to protect your wealth, you want to just put it somewhere that protects the purchasing power, right? If I had $1,000, right, and you just leave it in the bank, if you put $1,000 and bought some gold or some silver, your purchasing power would have been protected, because $1,000 today is not what $1,000 was in 1980. Right, it's two different values. It's written as the same value, but it spends different. It has different purchasing power. That's why you have things where you can rate adjust the money.
Mm-hmm.
Where somebody like, that's why they keep saying still to this day, Mansa Musa was the richest man in history, because he had billions of dollars. That yes, somebody now is a billionaire, but rate adjusted,
Mm-hmm.
he's the richest man who ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you just want to understand that Bitcoin, the price moves up, but actually the dollar's losing value against the value of Bitcoin. And that is one of the values in it. Whether the price moves in the way that you like it, it's 20,000, 50,000, 40,000, but it is, the dollar is losing value against Bitcoin. And also other digital assets. But we're speaking on the big dog right now in this episode.
And to super simplify everything that he just said, if you had a time machine, you're not going to take your dollars back in time with you. You're going to take silver and gold back in time with you.
Right.
It has held its value over 6,000 years. It's likely going to continue to hold its value. But again, it's something that when people are looking at it on the surface, they're like, well, an ounce of silver is only like $20-something. Or an ounce of gold went from 4,000 to, what is it, maybe 19?
No, it's about 1,800 now.
1,800?
1,800, yep.
But it was at one point about almost 3.
No, it's pushed 2,000.
It pushed up to
It pushed
2,000?
2,000, but
Okay.
it's back down to 1,800.
But
and gold is very stable.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as an investment, you don't have to worry too much if you invest in gold about the volatility.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on what you need to do for your family, your business, whatever it is, whether you want stability or you're willing to take on volatility. Bitcoin is going to give you volatility.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to understand that and have that in your plan as far as your investment and your long-term plan.
And as far as excess in monetary circulation, the gold accounts for all of that. So it does have that utility. I would implore you guys to take a look at Mike Maloney.
Mike Maloney, that's my
The
man.
History of Money.
Yeah.
It is a YouTube series. His name is Mike Maloney, The History of Money.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we do with the kids when we do our financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's 10 videos. And we always talk about historical context. He will absolutely give you the historical context. Now, I think one of the last videos was in 2013. So obviously, even though the information is timeless, towards the end it does become time sensitive because we were just on the cusp of Bitcoin and so on and so forth. You're going to see him going to a Bitcoin conference and getting his paper wallet. So that one's a little dated.
Right.
And Hashgraph, hetero Hashgraph, am I saying that right?
H-bar.
So those 2 videos are a little dated, but the rest of them, it's a great comprehensive video about the history of money, how U.S. economy works, how U.S. banking works. I implore you guys to do that homework in order to understand it, and it will help to give additional context to what we're saying. And we just want to kind of open up our algorithm, which is our brain, not our cell phones, to seeing and understanding how we can move about the world. I think what happens is when we start buying into the hype, We close ourselves off to the possibilities of other great and fantastic experiences. And we have the idea like, well, I'm a ride for Detroit, or I'm a ride for New York, or I'm a ride for wherever I'm from, and I'm not leaving and I'm staying. And when we travel to Myrtle Beach, and it's like, great, 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 great. But there is a whole world out there waiting for you. And you just never know what experience could really up the ante on your character, up the ante on your, I'm gonna say your intellectual portfolio, because you meet different people, you see different things, and you begin to do things differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get a different perspective. I think we've talked about this before, but you go places, you see how different people live, what they hold and as value. And when I say value, things that are important to them as a society or a community. And then you can take oh, okay, I didn't know. You see a lot of people, we talked about it. You see a lot of people who may live in poverty in these other countries, but they are happy. They are content. It would probably be a better word. They are content in how they are. And you can be a part of that. You could be a part of that. The United States is, it really beats you down with the high cost of living. It's a beatdown because it becomes an actual, what we call, rat race, right? It's a rat race. It's like, shout out to the chief. Mm-hmm. Shout out Chief. Chief always calls it a meat grinder. Mm-hmm. It's a meat grinder, right? You got to get up and maybe you make a good amount of money, but you got to get up. You got to be there. You got to do this just to keep a basic level of of living. Mm-hmm. And where you can move around and do some things, and you can get a better quality of living. You can also, with extra money, do some philanthropy. We're big into philanthropy, helping, so there's opportunities out here. It's like you said, people inherently are nomadic, so they move around looking for the best opportunities for their tribe and or family.
But over time, they've been programmed to not be. And that's what we're trying to bring to your attention, is that you are intentionally being programmed to not be nomadic, to stay where you are, right? I'm a Bengals fan. I'm not leaving Cincinnati. Yes, get the hell out of there if you can. I'm not saying go forever, but take a break from it. Take a break from what city you live in. Take a break from wherever you are. Travel someplace different.
I don't know if we should go too deep in this, but let's go. We got time. I got time today. We talk about a thing in metaphysics is referred to as an egregor.
Oh, egregor.
So Erin, she'll tell you more about an egregor. I'll pull it up, but
so an egregor is basically, for those of you who have ever read Napoleon Hill teaches that thoughts are things. Meaning that when you have a thought, it literally has an energy that happens outside of your body. And what an egregor is when all of these bodies have the same kind of thinking, the same mindset, and they get together, you get locked into this thinking algorithm. You're locked into it. So you're only getting the programming. And these are thoughts. This is not a computer. These are just people who feel a certain way about a certain thing. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just going to read
He's going to give you the textbook definition.
I'm going to give you textbook definition, right? So an egregor, right? So it's from the French word egregore. Did I say that right?
Yes,
egregore. Okay. So what it is, it's an occult concept, right? So I said metaphysics. I'm sorry. It's an occult concept representing a certain non-physical entity that arises from the collective thoughts of a distinct group of people. Yep. Historically, the concept referred angelic beings or watchers. But what we're saying is sometimes when you are in a certain area, the collective thoughts of those people will make, how would you say it?
It will control
the
behavior of the collective.
It will.
So that herd thinking, I think is what they call it.
Yep.
That's basically what it is. An egregor is herd thinking. And people don't realize how easily they get locked into that particular herd thinking. It's why when you go to a protest, it's so charged. The energy there, you can feel it. Even if you're not part of whatever if you were just there observing the field without judgment, right, in a neutral zone, you are going to be overwhelmed by the energy of the protest. Not just of the people protesting, but the people who are against the protest, typically the police or whatever political people don't want you getting together. That's why they always break the crowd up. That's the main reason why they break crowds up. Because when that herd thinking gets together, it's really hard to break that type of thinking apart. Two, I'm going to give you guys historical context. For many Black people, we used to have a saying, there's 3 or more of us hanging out, they're going to come break it up. Right? And that came from plantation style. They didn't want the slaves getting together and forming a coup. Right? Even in corporate America, you'll notice if 2 or 3 or 4 Black people are kind of hanging out, there will always be that one Caucasian who's, hey, what's going on over here? Or if you're hanging out in the dorms, you're a young airman, Lackland Air Force Base, and there's 5 guys hanging out in a room just watching sports, you're going to get the one white girl and one white guy wants to know, what are you guys doing in here? Right? I mean, it's just, it never fails.
Yeah, so the egregore too is big, especially if you live in smaller cities or counties and things like that. I mean, New York City is one thing, but if you live in a smaller city, the egregore it's very heavy. We could talk. I mean, I can name Ferguson. Ferguson was a huge one. Ferguson, when Michael Brown got killed, and then you had the people who were protesting, and the activists and everything. The egregore that hung over that community, a small community, is very heavy. And you have these egregores in communities, in cities, and then if you're talking about a larger city, just have a larger overall egregore, as we call it. When you go to another place and you're not of that place, the egregore that may be there doesn't affect you as much, right? Right? What's the word? What is the saying?
You are of that place. You're not from that place or of that place. You're outside of it, and the Bible tells you that you, like, come out of her. You are not of those people.
You're not, right? And we like to use Matrix references, right? What was the Matrix? They went into the Matrix to do what they had to do. Get what they got out, and they went back to the Nebuchadnezzar, right? Because the Nebuchadnezzar was their place, and when they went into the Matrix, you understood that there was an egregore above the Matrix, that everybody behaved in a certain way, and that's why I can't remember his name, but you remember the Matrix. He just wanted a steak, and he just wanted to go back.
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name either.
Because he was tired of living in the Nebuchadnezzar, where the egregore did not exist. I mean, it gets heavy out here, man.
And the most potent examples of egregores are typically political. So like the Democrats and the Republicans, those are major egregores that you can, if you just walked into that environment, you can feel it. And the idea is that we're opening up our algorithms. We are shifting perspectives. We're doing the work to gain historical reference. Again, when we talk about the school to prison pipeline, they make history boring for a reason. They make it Eurocentric for a reason. They're locking you into an algorithm. And they want it to be boring to dissuade you from doing self-education. So understand that everything has a purpose, a utility. So we got to get back to self-education in the boring subjects. History. You would be shocked at how poor people's geography is. When you don't know where something is, you will not travel to discover it. Right? You just don't have an interest in it. It's another reason why geography isn't a big focal point in school, because even when you look at maps, and for the what's the white lady's name that does racism?
Jane Elliott.
Jane Elliott, look it up. Jane Elliott has this great video where she shows you the maps, and she shows you how they made the United States on the map. It's in the middle. It is the focal point of the entire map, when the world doesn't really look like that. When you talk to map makers, they will tell you the world doesn't really look like the map that you're looking at. When you go to the UN has a map on that table and posted their logo.
Yeah.
is what a map actually looks like, that no one even gives any thought to. And it doesn't look like the map that we grew up on.
Well, and they'll have, and you'll probably see it on social media. They have these countries. They'll use Africa, and they'll show you how large Africa is in comparison to these other countries and or continents. Where they, if you look at that map, the flat map, you see like, oh well, United States is it's about as big as Africa. But then they start putting the United States, China in there, and you can see that Africa is really big. And they don't want to make Africa the focal point
of the map
of the universe.
And it's
I'm not the universe. I'm sorry,
of the universe.
It
is though. That's what the universe
I'm sorry, of the map, not of the universe. The universe is huge.
It's supposed to be our universe,
yeah.
Right? But we're bringing all of these things up. I know it feels like we're going down a rabbit hole. It all goes into just understanding why the shift in perspective is important and breaking the programmatic propaganda that's been fed to you. Is hard. You're 40 years old, you're 50 years old, you're 60 years old, you could be 25 years old. You were used to seeing this mirrored to you in this way. It's hard to break from it. And that's why they force feed it to you. So we do all of these exercises. I know a lot of people hated the exercise I gave for opening up the algo, and that was basically having the ability to listen to someone that you don't agree with. Listen to them all the way through and say, is there one thing you're saying that is valid and has utility? And that's a very difficult exercise for people because they want to stay locked into whatever it is they feel. And a lot of it is emotionally charged. When you're dealing with money, when you're dealing with assets, you have to take the emotion out of it because that is what they are exploiting, your emotional reaction and response. If you ever look at social media, all they do is find videos to get you emotionally charged. They show black men being killed. They're showing, Karen reaching over a Starbucks counter and throwing hot coffee in a woman's face. Very rarely do you get those feel-good, even the news. The news will have a 30-second segment on a feel-good concept. Everything else is bad news.
Negative.
And they want to keep you in negative, energetic energy. They want to keep that egregor. They want to keep you locked in an egregor. Doing these exercises, traveling outside of U.S. airspace where that programming doesn't exist anymore. Only if you... Like he said, if you hop back into the matrix, which is the U.S. for all intents and purposes, then yes. But when you're here, we live in Mexico, we don't watch cable.
No.
Right? Can we watch cable in Spanish? Yes, I can. The kids can. We don't. Because, they have their own propaganda that they're doing for their own people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's a lot of violence. And they keep them in fear so they can keep them oppressed, which is why the poverty prevails and persists. Despite the fact that everyone in Mexico typically has a smartphone and can do self-education. You didn't graduate. I didn't get past 3rd grade. Well, I see you on WhatsApp all day. Why don't you go on YouTube and see if you can learn something, maybe learn to read, maybe find free resources to help you kind of get going. People typically don't do that because they're locked in an egregor. So that's what we want to do. We want to shift your perspective. Yes, the dollar is failing, right? It is being propped up, but it does have a very strong utility. It just so happens you now have to shift your positioning in order to enjoy the utility of that dollar.
Yeah, that's what we talk about, making chess moves. So now you have a strong chess move. You have a strong chess piece, I should say. You have a very strong chess piece. Use that chess piece accordingly, right? It's like when you have the queen, you have a strong chess piece. Make your moves accordingly, right? And do something with it because eventually that power that you have is it's going to dissipate. It's going to go away. And it's dissipating every day. I mean, if you'd have made these moves 10 years ago, you'd be better off. But it's dissipating, but it's still there. You can still get something done out of it.
Now, the good news is where one opportunity begins to dissipate, a new opportunity begins to kind of conceptualize and come into existence. So that's the good news. It always has because things are cyclical. And that's why historical context is uber-duper important.
Mm-hmm.
right? Getting the historical context on certain things, understanding just the basics of your U.S. economy. I'm not asking you to look at the Austrian School of Economy or any other, just kind of, here's a homework exercise. You want to watch The History of Money by Mike Maloney.
Mm-hmm.
Your second homework assignment is to go on your phone
Okay.
and subscribe to some type of financial, whether it's Yahoo Business, whether it's CNN Business, whether it's just so you can see what's going on in the economy from day to day.
Right.
And just read maybe 1 to 2 articles a day.
Mm-hmm.
Share it with a friend, whoever you know is interested. You guys have my email address. I'm happy to do these things with you because I typically just forward it to him, but I'm going to talk to him about it anyway.
Okay.
And that way you can begin to understand the economy so you can know what type of moves to make. Like I said, that was big that they wrote an article that basically said, hey, Americans, while the dollar's struggling in the economy, guess what? This is the best time ever to travel abroad.
Mm.
I mean, for CNN to say that, that's craziness. But they are telling you the truth. They're like, it's so bad, we have to tell you the truth.
And remember, we talked about this before. There is a big movement of people leaving the U.S.
Yeah, there is.
From the digital nomads to...
And they're hiding it, aren't they?
Retirees, yeah, they're not really speaking on it. There's an article, I don't have it up right now, but it's talking about black men. Is 2 million black men missing from the United States. And you say, missing? Like, did they get kidnapped or something? No, they're just missing. They're gone. Like, you can't, they're off the radar. They're off the grid. They're doing this. They're doing that. They just are missing out of stuff that we talked about, like the census.
But they're not in prison.
But things they can't be accounted for.
Because they would be accounted for in prison.
Yeah, you're
or dead.
Yes, you're very accounted for if you were murdered or dead or in prison.
So
these people are just missing. And they're like, well, where are these 2 million black men? They are missing. They went and did, whether they're in another country, they started a business over here, they're off the grid,
Mm-hmm.
However it is, this is a problem. And they don't really talk about it much because they don't want to alarm the people.
But I think
it is an issue.
I would like to think they don't talk about it too because it keeps our numbers down.
Well, it keeps the numbers down.
They like that 12, 13%. Like that number is way bigger than that. I think that's another reason why they.
So, but there's opportunities out here all around the globe. It's not about you fleeing and leaving or running and some kind of fear. You make your appropriate chess move. Boom, I need to go here because when I go here, I can get a lot more, we like to say, I like to say bang for bang for your buck. But yeah, you go here, if you make, like we had a whole show talked about different amounts of wealth.
Yes. People,
$4,500, $4,200, you're in the top 50 percentile. Mm-hmm. So somebody who's got $40,000, $50,000 can go around the world and be in the top 10 percentile. Mm-hmm. That's just a strong chess move. Why would you sit somewhere where you have to suffer and have a lower quality of life when you could just make that move and have a higher quality life for your family and or tribe? I'm
going to tell you something else too that I think is important.
Okay.
Because we talk about the financial arbitrage, but what about the emotional arbitrage attached to the financial arbitrage? When we talk about freedom, we're a married couple. We've been married for 20 years. We have 4 children, for those of you who are new to the show. And the ability to have financial freedom also adds to the health of our marriage and us being parents. Mm-hmm. Because the things that people fight about, the excess, all of the tumultuous issues that are attached financially in marriages, we don't suffer from.
Yeah.
Right? Bills are paid effortlessly. Money is saved. And when I say saved, it's invested. It's not saved. It's invested. But in a sense, saved. Money is put away in the appropriate manner. The ratio is high. We invest 80%. We spend 20%. And our lifestyle is way better than I think it's ever been. it probably could ever be in the U.S.
Okay.
Where that ratio would be a lot lower. We would probably be investing 20% and spending 80%. Like you guys understand, with 4 children, understand that we are developing wealth for them individually, but not even for them, for their children. So we had 4 kids, so if I had to just kind of play numbers, I'm going to expect 2 out of 4 of my kids to probably have 3 to 4 children. So we just need to make sure that there's enough for those 5 to 6 children, right? But maybe there's 16 children and I'm not accounting for. Maybe Tino has 6 kids. However we play it out in our mind, we want to be prepared for those beings who have not come into existence yet. And our emotional health, just as a Black family, is at an all-time high, right? And when our emotional health is good, our physical health is great. I mean, we feel fantastic now. Granted, I can tell you, I got some aches and pains in my knees and stuff, but we don't have a lot of the chronic issues that we see people suffer from in the U.S. and so on and so forth. So I'm also kind of just adding, like, when you go abroad, you get to kind of decompress and you live differently. And then after a while, especially like if you're staying in these places for a significant amount of time,
yes,
your perspective on what matters and what doesn't matter begins to shift. The excesses of the United States is no longer important to you. Having 75 pairs of shoes isn't a big deal to you anymore because you have a different agenda. Having to go out 3, 4, 5 times a week. The ripping and running. When we lived in the U.S., everybody had to be somewhere at a certain time. That was stressful.
Yes.
Babysitters, basketball, football, yoga. I got to work out. I got to go to work. My husband used to work 24-hour shifts. I can't tell you how many 48-hour shifts he had to work because they used to have my manpower issues in CFD. Now, I shouldn't even complain about it now because it's horrible there now. Yeah. But at the time, Cincinnati Fire Department was having manpower issues. He would work a 48-hour shift and try to come home and be a husband and a father. He was asking a lot, right? He was young, so, who needs sleep?
Yeah.
However, those things will wear you down over a significant period of time. It'll wear down a marriage. It'll wear down being able to really cultivate your children and teach them. Who had time to homeschool kids? Well, they go to school every day. What are they learning there? And when I come to pick you guys up, I feel like I'm picking y'all up from the county jail every day. So, just kind of consider just different shifts in perspectives, but not just financially, emotionally, maybe spiritually. That's what sabbaticals were. People used to take sabbaticals so that they can go on this spiritual journey to discover who they really are and not what the world said they were supposed to be. So these are all of the arbitrages that we would like for you to consider, but we do want you to understand that right now the US dollar does have an arbitrage. It does require you to shift your geographical location in order to enjoy it, to do something different in order to have something that's never been had. And sometimes that's not even financial. Sometimes that's just a life experience.
Yeah. Definitely.
It adds to character, it adds to this, it adds to that. And I'm rambling. But I also want to mention one more thing that people overlook. Precious metals. Let's talk about it. You guys don't hear a lot about silver and gold, and I'll tell you why. Silver especially has what's called a secondary use, as a secondary utility. Manufacturers utilize silver in almost all electronic components, televisions, iMacs, computers, TVs, cell phones, so on and so forth.
Solar panels.
Yeah. Okay? And while you say, well, these things don't have a lot of silver in them, just compound how many people in the world, not just the United States, but in the entire world, use computers, use solar panels, use cell phones, have smart TVs, and so on and so forth.
Yes, indeed.
JP Morgan Chase is the world's largest holder of silver. No, we do not want it advertised that silver is a good idea to park your money in. It's economic. So like we said, you can just buy an ounce at a time. Little dutty bills, big dams.
Yeah.
If you bought 1 ounce of silver every single month for whatever it's going for, I think it's a little over $20, right?
Maybe.
After a year, you have 12 ounces of silver.
Right.
Year 2, you have 24 ounces of silver. When you look up over the course of 10 years, you'll have 120 ounces. And that's just doing your slow and steady wins the race.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? For us, obviously, we buy a lot more every single month, but just start somewhere. I know gold sometimes is the heavy feat. People want the whole ounce; they don't want the grams.
Right.
Because when you get the grams, it's this little. It looks like the chip in debit cards.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? As you're getting this little thing, you're like, damn, I paid all of that money for this little piece of gram. So I do understand for those who would like, I would like the whole ounce of gold, but start with silver.
Right.
Now, understand that silver is being mined into oblivion, in a sense. You're mining it so much because when you get rid of your cell phone, unless you're recycling, which a lot of people don't, people just have cell phones around the house, that silver is not recouped.
Yeah, what she's saying is like a lot of silver in products like laptops, cell phones, things like that, iPads, tablets, it's not being recovered. It's just gone. So it just, you throw you get rid of your laptop, silver that is in there is gone, and it's not recovered.
Right.
So yeah, that's an important thing.
So the silver isn't being recycled to go into new products. Anyway, understand that after a while, when the silver supply is exhausted, you're going to have to find other ways and other resources to tap into that silver. Let one of those resources be you. Let Apple have to come to you because you have 1,000 ounces of silver that they could utilize at a premium price. Now, is that going to happen tomorrow? No. But if you get ready and stay ready when the opportunity strikes, you are in the right position to make the right negotiation. Mm-hmm. We're saving the silver for the grandkids and so on and so forth. But if the opportunity arose, we would be in position to have a legitimate business talk.
Right.
JP Morgan Chase is so strong and passionate about their silver position that they have gotten not one but 2 RICO charges.
Yes, they have 2 RICO charges in regards to silver and manipulating the price of silver, the spot price of silver, I should say. And
and they're collecting it at a rate because they know that they want to be the only resource that manufacturers worldwide will tap into in order to access the silver reserves. Now, China is the world's largest holder of gold. Mm-hmm. That's a scary thought considering that they hold the debt for multiple countries, including the United States. Mm-hmm. Right? The dollar is no longer backed by gold. So China's kind of like, we don't need your little crappy dollar. In a sense, we have all of the gold. What can you really do for us? So just kind of start watching world economies and stuff like that to see where you are positioned, where you need to be positioned.
Because the BRICS nations are working and if not already done, trying to move away from the U.S. dollar. So you got the BRICS nations and who China is a part of are trying to move away from the U.S. dollar as far as trade and export stuff, right?
They're also buying a significant amount of real estate in New York, which is scary because you never want another country to hold a high percentage of real estate in your country.
When you say high-end real estate.
High-end real estate.
High-end real estate, not just real estate.
But high-end real estate.
High-end real estate, yep.
You don't want them owning your airlines. You don't want them... Because now you're basically under the subordination of that country. And these are the signals we want you guys to start watching for. It's easier to see it from the outside in because we're not in U.S. airspace where the propaganda is trying to keep these things for you, keep numbers down, keep certain things down, and so on and so forth. When you're outside of the country, you get that type of world news. I get a lot of news from the Turks.
Yeah. And you have things like, and what she's talking about, structural things like the airlines. So they bail out the airlines, they'll bail out the banks. Yeah. Because you don't want Delta Airlines to be bought out by Turkish Airlines. So all of a sudden now, all your airlines in the United States is Turkish Airlines. So the banks and the Federal Reserve will bail out the airlines. What do you say, they'll bail out banks? Like, you don't want.
Oh yeah, they'll bail out the banks because you don't want China to own J.P. Morgan Chase,
Yeah.
Wells Fargo, and
You
Bank
know.
of America. That's your tier one banking
And
system.
and if you have a bank, they'll just let them fold, like Goldman Sachs. I mean, not Goldman Sachs. Who folded? Lehman Brothers.
Lehman Brothers. Oh
They
yeah,
let Lehman Brothers fold. Like, they just let them fold.
they had a lot
Because
of poor practices though.
yeah, but somebody could have came and bought them. They let them fold, and so it's just structural things that we talk about. I don't know. We didn't get down rabbit hole.
No, we didn't go down the road because we
didn't?
want the shift in perspective, but to understand where the opportunities are.
Mhm.
But why do we need a shift in perspective? And like, if I'm holding you hostage in the house, I only want you to see what I want you to see here in the house. I don't want you to know what's going on in the neighborhood. I don't want you to know what opportunities you have to escape.
Right.
I don't want you to know where you are. I don't want you to know what resources you have to get out. And really, it is, in a sense, and this is with every nation. It just happens we're talking about the U.S., but it is a hostage situation because without the people, there's no taxation. Right. So each of you represent income for that nation. Mm-hmm. So they have all of these onslaughts of propaganda programming in order to manipulate you to do what they want you to do the way they want you to do it. It's why marketing is so lucrative.
And if we're going to bring that up about hostage situations, it's I mean, it's the Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Right? People will say, "Oh, I'm not ever going to leave my," because that is what Andrew Henderson said, and you'll hear that from other people, other groups. Like, I'm not running, I'm not leaving. It's not about running or leaving. What you have to do is you have to be strategic and make your chess move. Right? You can stay in the United States if it works for you, but if it's not working for you, then you need to make a chess move.
Right?
Like, don't stay here and just be abused and accosted and taken advantage of. Like, make a move. Like, if I can go to Mexico or Nicaragua, or I mean, you can name places, Panama, wherever.
Thailand, it could be anywhere. Malaysia.
Yeah, just take advantage of the opportunity you have. You're not running. You're not doing anything. You're just making a strategic chess move.
But it is known, it's a known fact that psychologically, traveling is good for your psychological makeup. Mm-hmm. Right? No one has suffered from traveling. People suffer from staying in place. Mm-hmm. Psychologically. Yeah. It's just like a dead end. It's that hopelessness. And that's why the idea of vacation is so... companies, good companies, will tell you have to take these vacations. We want our people to come back fresh. And that's all you may need. We're not saying, sell everything you own and come follow us to Mexico. And we're not partial to any country. Let's just make that clear. Right? We're strategically looking at geographical locations. This geographical location works for now. We may do a show 2 years from now and all of a sudden we're in, I don't know, Malaysia. Learning a new weird language. So, but eating great food, I'm sure. I watched that little Food Network. So, we just want you to keep those things in mind. I did want to bring up the dollar and I wanted to bring up Bitcoin today. I know we kind of traveled down a rabbit hole, but understand that there's no currency that matches Bitcoin at even night. Bitcoin went down to 14,000.
Yeah.
One Bitcoin still outpaces the other currencies.
Yes.
So it still has its utility. Yes, we do want it to be 190,000. We do.
But if you if you overlay the charts, right, to a dollar, I mean, it's only a few currencies you can overlay the charts to: dollar, a euro, maybe
Franc,
the CMB or something like that. But you see how it's outperformed those currencies
in a small amount of time.
Yes.
And that's something else that we don't really talk about. He said it was just in 2011 it was 1-to-1. It's 2022. It's not 1-to-1 anymore. It's 1-to-20.
Not even close to 1-to-1.
1,000. So there's several magnitudes there, and we just want to put those things in the context so that we can be more and optimistic isn't really the word that I want to use, but not so poo-poo and depressed over Bitcoin not being at 220 or whatever it was forecasted to be by now.
Right. And like we said, we mentioned this in another show. I mean, the Bitcoin price goes up. That
means
far against the dollar, and that means the
economy's in big trouble.
economy's in trouble. The kind of world stability is in trouble. You don't. I mean, a $500,000 Bitcoin means that the world is in shambles a little bit. I mean,
we're getting there, and it might be inevitable.
It might be inevitable, but that's what it means. I mean, if you find like, oh, I invested in this, but the world's a little shaky out here, so we take it in strides, right? As they say, we take it in strides.
But that's really all we wanted to do, is to shift your perspective, show you the importance of just traveling. Again, we're not asking you guys to relocate permanently. Just travel. Take an intentional business trip, see something different. But we do want you to experience for yourself the arbitrage of what purchasing power actually looks like. And for those of you who've never left the United States, you've never really experienced true purchasing power.
Right, and I said amongst the people, right? Not these resort areas, because you're going to get kind of like the market price, the same prices. Go to the amongst the people, right? If you go to Jamaica, wherever you're going, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Tanzania, go amongst the people. Go amongst the people. You'll see the purchasing power be better for you in those places, and that's all. That's what we hear. Hit us up, man. If you're coming down here, serious, like she says, serious inquiries. But yeah, we here in Mexico. Come down here and check us out. Come check us out.
It's right next door. It's from the East Coast. It's a 2, 3, 4 hour flight. If you're not having trouble getting flights, which people are having trouble getting flights.
Yes, they are.
But, strike while the iron's hot, but understand what your opportunity is. And that's all that we do on the show, is just real world application and some context to better shift our perspectives. We love you guys. We'll talk to you on Monday.
We got the shows coming. We're going to do quantum field theory eventually. I need a little time to get that together.
And Bitcoin and Zero.
Bitcoin and Zero. She wants to do Bitcoin and Zero. So we got some interesting shows coming up for you guys.
Yeah.
Correct.
If you love our content, all we ask is that you share it. We appreciate it. We don't even do this for likes, but we do appreciate the comments. Those we like. But like our content, please share it. We're asking you guys to share it. And we'll see you on Monday. Bye.
Salute.